Cyberpunk 2 is officially happening. That's not the official name. They say it's a placeholder, but it could end up being it. You guys let me know what your best guess is. Welcome to the channel, everybody. Jimmy or Chaos. Today's video, we focus on all the latest leaks, rumors, and confirmations for Cyberpunk 2. We're going to talk about the story, the setting. We're going to talk about returning characters, and we're going to talk about basically confirmation of where we're going to spend most of our time in this Cyberpunk world, and it's not Night City. It could be Chicago, and we're going to explain all of that as well. Drop a like, guys. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and as always, I read every single comment on every single video. So if you guys have opinions or you want to talk, I'm here for you. Let's go. In our last video, we went over the basics. CD Projekt Red has confirmed they're working on a Cyberpunk 2077 sequel, and it was codenamed Project Orion, and now they are calling it Cyberpunk 2. It's officially in pre-production. We also discussed how the dev team shifted to North America, Boston and Vancouver studios, while the main Polish team is taking on Witcher 4. And of course, we talked about the bombshell from Cyberpunk's creator, Mike Pondsmith. The next game will not be confined to Night City. It will return to Cyberpunk 2, maybe not the final title we'll see, is taking us to a completely new city with a gritty Chicago gone wrong vibe. Now the sequel is being built from the ground up in the Unreal Engine 5. No more RED engine, which that should bring some serious improvements. We even touched on story speculation, whether or not V or Johnny Silverhand can make a comeback in some form, and the devs, well, they hinted that player choices will matter even more this time around. Now, that was last time. Now let's get into what's new and all the latest news, rumors, leaks about Cyberpunk 2. Let's start with the official updates in the development status. Where is Cyberpunk sequel right now? As of mid-2025, CDPR confirmed the project, we're going to call it Cyberpunk 2 for simplicity, has moved out of the concept phase and has entered pre-production. So in other words, the game is real, it's alive, and the devs are actively building the foundations of the game. Now don't expect trailers or gameplay anytime soon, it's still very early. In fact, CDPR's recent earnings call noted that their games typically take around 4 to 5 years to go from pre-production to release. They haven't given a release year, and wisely so, but industry analysts, they're guessing late this decade. Now stick around to the end of the video, we'll talk more about the release date rumors. It's probably not as bad as you think it is. Now, on the team front, the North American studio, CDPR, Boston, and Vancouver are leading development. That's a big change from the first game, which was primarily built in Poland. Now the reason is, like I said, the Polish studio is all hands on deck for The Witcher 4. But that's okay. Many of the key leads from Cyberpunk and the Phantom Liberty expansion have jumped over to this one. We've got the same narrative director, Igor's there, quest designer, Gabe is there, veteran quest lead, Sasko is there, and a lot more. So in short, the sequel is in good hands with people who already proved themselves with the first one. CDPR has even hired some industry heavyweights from other studios. You have people coming from ex-Blizzard, from Ubisoft Massive. They're beefing up this team. And a fun fact, Igor, the narrative director, actually said on Twitter when he started in Boston that 2077 was just a warm-up. That's definitely a way to get people hyped. Now on the tech side, one of the most welcome confirmed changes is the move to the Unreal Engine 5. They're going to ditch the old Red engine and rebuild Night City and beyond in Unreal. Now why does that matter? Well, it should make development smoother. It should allow for more advanced visuals and systems out of the box. Now for players, it'll likely mean better performance, fewer bugs at launch, fingers crossed, and it also opens the door to some new features. For example, CDPR posted a job listing earlier this year saying they aim to create the most realistic and reactive crowd system in any game to date. So imagine the streets of Night City or Chicago packed with NPCs that actually feel alive and respond intelligently to your actions. That's the level they're shooting for. Now considering Cyberpunk already had pretty good streets, this is going to be next level immersion. And one more official thing, naming. A lot of us, myself included, are calling it Cyberpunk 2, but the studio did make it clear that's not the final title. Just a placeholder that they use internally to mean the next Cyberpunk game, not literally Cyberpunk 2078 or something. In an interview, CDPR's PR manager said flat out, Cyberpunk 2 isn't the official title. Just means it's another game in the Cyberpunk universe. So give me your best guess as to what the name will be. Now, let's talk about the setting, where the sequel takes place. We do have official confirmation the game will expand beyond Night City, and it feature at least, I say at least, one additional major city. Mike Pondsmith, the creator of the Cyberpunk Tabletop universe and a consultant on the games, did say at a conference in May of this year, the new game's main location feels like neon-soaked Night City, less like neon-soaked Night City, and more like Chicago that went wrong. Now, in his words, This isn't like Blade Runner. It's more like Chicago gone wrong. That's a pretty vivid picture to me. Think gritty industrial dystopia, rusted skyscrapers, crumbling infrastructure, and a whole lot of crime. Basically a city that's been through hell and hasn't really shiny-fied itself like Night City did. And according to Pondsmith, Night City still exists in the sequel world. I mean, it hasn't been nuked off the map or anything, but the focus is going to shift to this Chicago-esque metropolis. Now, Chicago and Cyberpunk, that's pretty interesting. In the 2077 game, there was actually an Easter egg about a maglev train. Get from Chicago to Night City in less than 3 hours, coming in 2080. Pretty big tease that Chicago was on the horizon. Now, lore-wise, the Cyberpunk's universe with Chicago was largely abandoned during the collapse of society in the 2020s. Nearly 90% of the city was left to rot and even overgrown by nature and parts. By 2077, they had started rebuilding sections of it, and they established a high-speed connection to Night City. So if the sequel is set around 2080, which I think it is, we're looking at a city with a mix of new and old. We'll have reclaimed districts rising from the ruins, overgrown wastelands, and maybe some corporate enclaves trying to plaster a fresh coat of paint over all of it. In other words, the perfect playground for a Cyberpunk story. I mean, it's going to be interesting, but if we for some reason didn't go to Chicago, which I don't know how we're not, where else would you want to see a city? Or if Chicago is not the only city in the open world, where else would you like them to connect to? Now the big question, the story and the characters. This is where speculation tends to run wild. Now officially, CD PR is keeping the story details completely under wraps. But we can make some educated guesses here based on how 2077 and its DLC ended and what the devs and community have been hinting at. One big question on everybody's mind. Will we play as V again? Or will we have a new protagonist? And if it's a new hero, does V's story continue in some way? Now the ending, spoiler alert, of Cyberpunk 27 leave room for different possibilities. By the end of Phantom Liberty and its new Where Is My Mind secret ending, V's fate can branch a bit. But in most outcomes, V is either dying or has limited time, or in one ending, V is cured but loses all their friends and wakes up in 2079 after a coma. There's even an ending where V's mind gets stored in Mikoshi, effectively making V a digital ghost. Now, players could have a lot of different outcomes. So it's tricky for a sequel to pick a single canon path here without upsetting some fans. Many believe CDPR will introduce a new protagonist for this, a fresh character whose story won't step on whatever you chose for V. It's definitely the safest route. I'm telling you now, that doesn't mean V is gone for good. One popular theory, and one I'm personally intrigued by, is that V could appear in the sequel as a construct AI, similar to how Johnny was a construct in 2077. For instance, if the sequel is set around 2080, it's only a few years after 2077's events. If you got the ending where V's mind is in Mikoshi, that ending, technically V could be out there in cyberspace. We might encounter a digital V Ingram as an NPC or even a companion quest. I don't know. It'd be a cool way to acknowledge at least and make it canon. And, of course, what about Johnny Silverhand? Keanu Reeves' character was the biggest part of 2077. It's hard to imagine a sequel with not some kind of nod to Johnny. But the tricky part is, spoiler alert, Johnny's story pretty much concludes in 2077. In most endings, Johnny either goes free into cyberspace or you let him take over your body and he leaves Night City, or he's gone. CDPR hasn't said yes or no on Johnny returning, but I suspect we'll at least get a cameo, a nod, or reference, or something. Maybe Johnny appears in a flashback or as a symbolic figure, or if V returns as an Ingram, Johnny might be with V in cyberspace. And I'm telling you right now, come on, it's Keanu Reeves. They're definitely gonna have him there. Now, other returning characters are up in the air. Example, Rogue, the Fixer, may or may not be alive in 2080, depending on how the final mission went for you. If you did the ending where Rogue helps storm the tower, well, she didn't make it. Another pass, Rogue is kicking. The voice actress Jane Perry hasn't confirmed anything and is basically, well, we'll see. I mean, one outlet put it, Rogue may or may not have survived the raid. Then there's Solomon Reed, of course, from Phantom Liberty, and if the timeline and the story allow, could he reappear? It's definitely possible. So we'll see. There's one more fan out there thinking Mr. Blue Eyes, the mysterious fixer who hires V for the Crystal Palace heist in the Sun ending, might actually play a larger role in the sequel. We'll see. It's a really quick talk about feature and gameplay improvements, and what will Cyberpunk do differently? One big criticism of the original game was that some choices didn't have impact on players, or they didn't have impact players expected. CDPR seems to have taken that to heart. One of the lead designers said in an interview that the sequel needs to validate player decisions more and make the story more reactive. So in his words, if players make certain choices for their V, The game shouldn't later invalidate what players have been doing, and that tells me that Cyberpunk 2's narrative might branch more or acknowledge your actions in a bigger way. Consequences could be a bigger deal. Maybe multiple significant endings, again, are very divergent paths. I like that. And then related to that, the life path system might see an actual revamp. If you played 2077, you remember choosing a life path. Nomad, Street Kid, all that corpo, and it gave you a unique prologue, some dialogue options, but ultimately it all funneled into the same main story pretty quickly. CDPR's narrative director actually commented that life paths in 27, they were underutilized. He said he'd like to make the life paths a bit less muddled and more meaningful in the sequel. Now, we've also heard rumors about multiplayer. You guys remember back when CDPR had floated the idea of a Cyberpunk online or multiplayer mode, but it never materialized for 2077. They scrapped it to focus on the base game. For the sequel, looks like they're at least considering adding some form of multiplayer. In an interview, the CEO Adam Badowski himself said the team is considering multiplayer elements for Cyberpunk 2. That's a careful way of putting it. Doesn't mean it's 100% happening, but they're exploring it. So we'll see, maybe a minor social hub, co-op missions. I don't think it's gonna be a big focus, but then again, who knows? We'll see. So you guys let me know what you think. We're gonna get big graphical leaps. We're gonna get new cities. We're probably gonna get new characters. Hopefully we get some of the old ones back too, but it's pretty wild. But we'll see. And I also said I wanted to talk about the release window, and I talked about it in the beginning. 5-year development cycle from pre-production to release. So pre-production started in 2025, so the math tells you probably 2029. I mean, yeah. In fact, reporters at Radio Times predicted 2029 or 2030. I mean, it sounds far off. Guys, remember, Witcher 4 is targeting 2027. They don't want to have their two biggest games, their IPs, colliding. And I mean, there's optimism that with lessons learned and a new engine, things could go smoother and quicker. Perhaps we see Cyberpunk sequel by 2028 if we're lucky. Either way, it's going to be a few years. The good news is CDPR is not rushing this. We saw what happens when they rush, so take your time, let it cook, and give it to us when it's done. Let me know what you guys think. Once again, I read every single comment on every single video. Give me your opinions, development, setting, Chicago, story, characters, gameplay improvements, all that. Let me know where you're at, what you're feeling. Are you excited? Are you ready? I'll make you a Witcher 4 video pretty soon when we get some new news. I'll see you soon.